Thankfully, temperatures have cooled a little here in the Hunter. It was very, very warm earlier on in the day. Temperatures of around 37 degrees, but a little cooler tonight, and crucially, the air is clearer, which will make it a lot more comfortable for players and fans alike. Well, can Craig Deans lift the mood? His paper-thin squad will be put to the test tonight by a Sydney FC team that is also undermanned, but which simply does not understand the meaning of losing. Sky Blues were well below their best against Adelaide last week, but they still found a way to win. That's the mark of champions, and their lead at the top can extend out to 12 points if they can win here this evening. There is the new man. Not that he's new, of course. Craig Deans has been part of the furniture here for many years. W League coach, he's given those commitments up just for the time being to take interim charge of the men's senior team. And they'll be looking for a response tonight. The teams then standing facing each other to form that guard of honour for the firefighters, who, as mentioned, continue to give such wonderful service in fighting those devastating fires right across the nation. This round and the next round of the A-League and the W League will act as fundraisers for rural aid aimed at providing assistance for those affected. The website address ruralaid.org.au/football. And these guys and girls richly deserve our thanks and our applause.
Silence to recognise the work of the RFS and support crews. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause, please.
And of course, all of us Fox Sports commentators are joining in the appeal as well this weekend. We're donating $20 per goal scored in each A-League and W League match this weekend. If you want to donate, follow the instructions on screen. Great stuff, great initiative, and great to see football doing its bit. We're all in this together, aren't we? So on to the football. And in terms of the team news, well, Craig Deans has made a couple of changes for his first game in interim charge. Nick Fitzgerald returns for his first start since mid-December. He's going to play on the left-hand side of midfield in a 4-4-2 formation, at least on paper, while the Panamanian international striker Abdil Arroyo is back for the first time since suffering a hamstring injury in late November. Pat Langlois and Angus Thurgate dropped down to the bench. Dimi Petratos was a doubt with a groin injury, but he has passed a fitness test and will play. Just the one change for Sydney FC by contrast, as we give you another reminder of that website address if you want to donate. All in aid of those suffering the worst effects of those bushfires, particularly in rural areas, but right around the country. Get onto the website and give whatever you can if you're able to. So that team news for Sydney, just the one change, which is necessitated by a 5th yellow card of the season for Luke Bratton last week. So Anthony Caceres will shift into a central midfield role to partner last week's goal-scoring hero, Paulo Retre. And Milos Ninkovic returns after missing the win over Adelaide United with a calf niggle. Harry van der Sar continues to deputise for the suspended Ryan Grant at right back. Good record Ninkovic has got against the Newcastle Jets as well. 6 goals in 12. There is Harry van der Sar making just his second start. And he did pretty well on starting debut against the Reds last week, particularly in the second half when Sydney had to soak up fair bit of pressure in very, very hot conditions. It's been a busy week for Jason Hoffman. He and his partner have just celebrated the birth of their second child this week. Welcome to the world, little Delilah Hoffman. I wonder if he's got much sleep. As for Sydney, Paolo Retre doubled his career tally of goals in the space of 6 minutes against the Reds in the last round. His move into central midfield may well become a more permanent feature if the rumours of Brandon O'Neill's transfer overseas, potentially to South Korea, prove to be factually correct. I think we'll find out a bit more about that this week. He can slot in anywhere, can't he? Paolo Retre, right back, left back, midfield, doesn't seem to matter. Pitch looks in good condition, and as mentioned, weather temperatures have eased, so much more comfortable for players and fans alike. Adam Lafondra, Sydney's top scorer with 12. He's never scored at this venue. Let's see if that changes tonight. Sydney FC in their change strip, kicking us off there in all white, bottom against top. The Jets at home, but probably Andy Harper still pretty long odds to upset the apple cart.
Well, you'd imagine so, Simon, but new games bring new hope. Beautiful playing surface, reasonably favourable conditions, particularly when you're given where many of the A-League matches have been recently, weather-wise. So, you know, the Jets should be primed. They must be primed. The players on field owe it to their own careers to stand up, and they owe it most certainly to the fans watching on television here at the stadium to put in an account.
And as I mentioned in pre-game to Craig Deans, I mean, really, they've got nothing to lose tonight, have they? Everybody expects them not to get the 3 points. They can almost play with, if not total, then some sort of abandon.
Well, you know, Simon, it's a mentality that should be evident in every team every week of the season. What's there to lose? Apart from a position on a table, you can't get kicked out of the comp.
You can lose your job if you're earning America, I guess, but I know the point you're making.
But the point is now, you asked about the players.
Exactly.
And they just got to rip right in, leave nothing to the imagination. The opportunity is theirs, up against a very good team, and of course, many people's favourites to win the premiership. It's going to take some doing to reel them in, even at this stage, but it's something that the Jets can see to first up.
Here's Nick Fitzgerald, who's starting on the right of midfield, not the left as listed. Turned back by Petratos. Turned over by Ben Kantarovski, which brings 1 or 2 groans from the home fans in the stand. Lafondra looking to reward the run of Barbarouses, and he's picked the pocket of Topo Stanley on the blind side, who just got caught daydreaming for a moment. And he had to rectify the situation via the foul. Great form, Costa Barbarouses. 8 of his last 9 games have produced either a goal or an assist. He's really warmed to life with Sydney FC.
It's a worrying start for Newcastle. 2 of their most experienced players looking a little sleepy at the wheel. Kantarovski with the dead giveaway, and Topo Stanley a little tentative there. Whatever nerves are with this Newcastle team, they need to dispel them quickly.
Let's see what Baum-Johan can come up with from the set piece. It's not his best, in all honesty. I think he actually might have kicked the ground before the ball, which is unlike the German, and might lead to a counter here for the Jets. Nick Fitzgerald's pretty much on his own. It's Bobby Burns furthest forward on the left, and he'll challenge for it aerially here and help it on towards Jason Hoffman. We'll get there ahead of Anthony Caceres, and it will be a Jets throw. Sydney haven't won on any of their last 3 trips here to the Hunter, which is interesting given their domestic dominance over the last couple of campaigns. A little swivel of the hips from Matt Miller, gets him clear of Ninkovic. It's a teasing cross, Arroyo. Well, he climbed beautifully, and he, if anything, had a little bit too much time to think about that, and probably should have made Redmayne work a bit harder.
Well, great work from Matt Miller, and he rose beautifully, but couldn't control the header, which is a shame, because from that range, you need to be more of a threat than you are. But he rose nicely. It's a good welcome back to Arroyo, who's been absent for weeks now with that injury.
Last appeared in round 8 in the 2-0 home win over the Wanderers. And it'll be fascinating to see whether his fitness is enough for him to last the full 90. But Craig Dean's clearly feeling it was a gamble worth taking, given the Jets' ladder position and all the tumult from this week. See your marquee striker back, gives everybody a lift.
Just importantly as well, but Craig Deans has relieved what I believe is a significant burden from Angus Thurgate, who at this point in his career is not a centre forward. I think he's got great potential as a midfield player, but he's played that role to some effect. But I think it's quite judicious of Craig Deans to get the guy you signed to be centre forward out there and showing the way.
It's a foul on Hoffman. Not the first time Deans has had the job, of course. He was interim back in 11-12 and won 2 of his 3 matches in charge before relinquishing senior duties. This is Fitzgerald. Gets clear of King with ease. Top of the box is Ugarkovic. It's a couple of sighters now the Jets have had, which is promising.
And a very bright start by Nick Fitzgerald. He's been more out than in this season. He's been very effective on I think it's probably 3 occasions he's received the ball now. He's delivered something meaningful on each occasion.
He's won the ball in the air again here to find his teammate Dimi Petratos. Picked up a whack on the way through as well. Everybody knows the talent of Nick Fitzgerald. Just hasn't really been able to seem to put it into practice over a consistent period. I remember one stint he had with Melbourne City. Started the season absolutely brilliantly, then somewhat tailed away. Here's Matthew Miller trying to trail away from Milos Ninkovic and try to reward the run of Fitzgerald, but King was in the way. Baumjohann caught blatantly by Kantarovski. Signed a 2-year extension to his contract. Ben Kantarovski, longest serving player at the club. There's the infringement by Kantarovski. Late and a touch high on Baumjohann. Gets away from King on the near sideline. Sydney now 9 matches unbeaten in the league since that solitary loss to the Wanderers in the derby. Dropped just a couple of points since. The 2-2 draw away to Wellington. And that gap could be absolutely colossal if they win here tonight between them and Melbourne City. 12 points even at this early stage of the season, Harps. Seems a lot to reel in.
Well, he's making a great fist of his head coaching career. Just in his 2nd season now as the boss. He's not missed a trick, really. And you're right, Simon. Just, if they win here tonight and other teams can't get maximum points, the closest team's chasing it. Hard to see them reeling them in, really.
Well, the Jets have made a decent start here. Couple and a half chances. Miller losing out, though, to King. Jackson stepping in front of Lafondra, who wanted handball against Lockie Jackson. Steven Ugarkovic. Jackson again. 5 matches without success for the Jets since that aforementioned 2-0 home win over the Wanderers, 30th of November. Last time they claimed maximum points. Good little flick through by Fitzgerald, and Caceres palming off Ugarkovic for no foul given by referee Stephen Lucas. Sydney enjoy a bit of possession in the opposition half of the pitch. Wilkinson. Square by King for Rattray. Van der Sarg sneaking forward down the right, but ignored for now. Back through Wilkinson. Ninkovic. Rattray, Van der Sar going again. This time he's going to be rewarded. Or at least that was the intention from Rattray. And now Van der Sar's got to sprint back some 50-60 metres. The Jets have turned it over. Milos Ninkovic. Barbarouses. Ninkovic, Joel King providing some width on the left, opted to go low, and it's away for the game's first corner off Matthew Miller.
A reasonable start by the Jets, but they're looking a little standoffish defensively, as far as I'm concerned. You've got to show players like Ninkovic respect, of course, but you don't want to give them too much time. And the last couple of attacks forward, they've turned the ball over, which against this Sydney team can prove fatal. They're so efficient in the counter-attack.
Let's see what they're like at set pieces. Going to be Baumjohann to deliver. McGowan at the back post. He goes towards the near instead. Well, you might remember Harry Van der Sar came pretty close to scoring against Adelaide last week before Paolo Rattray followed in the rebound. Good little spin by Caceres on the right. Enjoying a rare run of first-team games. Several key absentees. Baumjohann drills it out low and hard towards Van der Sar. Sydney's turn to apply some pressure. Off the knees of Topper Stanley, retrieved immediately by Lafondra and recycled here through Joel King. And there's a touch off Arroyo. It's going to be another corner.
Well, the Jets well organised, but there are just these occasions when a Sydney player's in possession, potentially, and turning away from goal, and the Jets' pressure drops off. And, you know, I'd be changing that quick smart. I'd be nipping at heels, given the state of things at the moment. Not conceding space and getting played out, but you've got to defend a little bit more aggressively. Petratos has been better in that register so far this evening.
Bit of sleep at the near post corner. Barbarouses was left alone. Back in by Baumjohann. Steered away by Jason Hoffman. First to react is King. McGowan, who'd stayed up for the previous two corners, and Hoffman gets it out in front of those Sydney FC travelling fans. After that bright start by the Jets, champions maybe just starting to ease into gear a little. Caceres. Jab back over halfway towards Ryan McGowan. Caceres. Heavy touch by Baumjohann. Kantarovski. Usefully floated out in front of Petratos. Almost let the ball slip out. Drills it in towards the near post. Clearing header by Wilkinson. Picked up in the deep by Ugarkovic. Jackson. Miller. Fitzgerald with time to spin and play it back towards Miller, who goes first time towards the back post. Petratos waited for it to drop, but Van der Sar with the intervention. And the Jets' patience almost rewarded there.
They've looked good down the right-hand side again. Nick Fitzgerald is at 100% so far with his contributions, either winning the ball or finding a teammate as he passes it. And a lot of those passes have been very positive, aggressive passes. So well done to Nick Fitzgerald. Very happy to see the energy Dimi Petratos is putting in. I thought he was subpar last week, and as we've subsequently learned, it might have been because he was injured. But he's been much sharper tonight. Full of intent, close people down.
Strong play by Ninkovic to get clear of his opponent, threads it through for Barbarouses. Sydney threatening, and now they lead. It's as simple as that. That's just what the champions do, and it's Adam Lafondra with his 13th of the season. Still feasting on those sausage rolls, the Englishman. 7 goals in 6 away games, and the baker's dozen for the campaign.
Well, Fitzgerald can't secure the possession on this occasion and then just gives it up. I mean, that's poor. You can't allow Ninkovic to just run unpicked up like that. And then the dominoes fell. He didn't have to tackle there, Fitzgerald, and now pressure's off for Ninkovic. He can set the tone. He can release the ball, which he does to Barbarouses. And Topor Stanley's as close as he can get. But Sydney, too lethal in those changeovers. Momentum towards goal. They're too lethal.
That's the first time he's scored at this venue, Adam Lafondra. But away from home, he's been just as prolific as at either Netstrata Jubilee or Leichhardt Oval. They just keep raining in those goals. 31 in 42 A-League matches now. And all that good early work from the Jets. That's not to say that they were completely bossing the game, Andy, but they were setting themselves quite nicely, has all just been flung out of the window.
Yeah, well, that's the way of things. They had a couple of good sights at goal, principally Arroyo's header. Never to the point where you were convinced Sydney were put back in their box, and they couldn't maintain the vigil. Nick Fitzgerald receives the ball and is isolated. First time tonight he loses the ball. There's no criticism there, but his decision to dive in and try and dispossess Ninkovic from a horribly compromised situation was ill-advised. And then the space Ninkovic had, Simon. You know, you got to wonder how the Jets were so incapable of closing the field up with that turnover.
Still a fair bit to do, though, wasn't there? Credit to Barbarouses, who gets another assist. And to Lafondra, who moves clear of Jamie McLaren once again. Some race that is for the Golden Boot this season. Don't rule out 1 or 2 behind the top 2 either. The likes of Ulysses Davila having a terrific campaign. A drop of the shoulder there from Ninkovic. Lafondra. King. Stanley got his body in the road. Back through Van der Sar, Caceres. Caceres drifting away from Kantarovski. Burns got a foot in. Arroyo. Not in a position really where Craig Deans wants him, and he's lost out to Ninkovic. And these are concerning moments for the Jets. Look at the room here for Joel King. Miller gets across. King angles it back. Oh, and Lafondra let it run, perhaps in the belief that somebody was coming in behind him. Maybe that opens the door for the Jets at the other end. Arroyo, that's a beautifully flighted ball into the path of Fitzgerald. Wilkinson stood him up. It'll be a throw.
Got a good switch. To find Nick Fitzgerald has been the most prominent Jets player in this opening stanza, mostly for good. Arroyo, a nice switch of play by the Panamanian.
Dimi Petratos. Square by Ugarkovic. Topor Stanley. Kantarovski. Arroyo, it's all a bit tight in there. I just wonder whether Kantarovski might have been tempted to have a shot there, even though he was outside the box. Jets will come again. Ugarkovic. Arroyo dropping off the front line. There's an arm across him from Ninkovic. It's deflected out for another throw. Big, powerful customer, the Panamanian. Judged by Kantarovski on Lafondra. Home fans don't like that. Relieves the pressure on Sydney. Thoughts, Andy?
Yeah, just slightly reaching in there. It's almost touch and go, but probably erring on the side of Lafondra and the ref's call.
What about his goal-scoring record in all competitions now? It's 36 goals in 51 games. And if you remember when he signed Hubs, there was a big question mark because everybody was saying, how on earth is he going to fill the boots of Babot?
Well, when other clubs go into that overseas market for goal scorers, I mean, the history of the league suggests that mostly they fail. But Sydney haven't. Babot, Nijiewski with Graham Arnold, and everyone's thinking, what's Steve Corica going to do? And then he brings in Lafondra.
Yeah. Mark Yanko before them. They've been very good in that particular area of the pitch and picking up good goal scorers from overseas. Here's Topo Stanley. Down the line by Burns. Should be Redmayne's, and is. Joel King. Ninkovic with Fitzgerald having to chase back, and he's not going to reach Ninkovic. Danger brewing here again for Jets. Barbarouses, Lafondra waiting at the back post. And Ninkovic and Barbarouses trying to play between them. They weren't that far off, succeeded. That's a foul by Lafondra. Arm across the back of Fitzgerald. Jets eager to get on with things. Petratos helps it further forward towards Arroyo. That's Miller outside him. Tees it up instead for Steven Ugarkovic. Oh, what a goal! Steven Ugarkovic took his time, set himself on his right peg and planted it into the top left-hand corner. A brilliant equaliser. All square the Jets.
Well, the recently departed Ernie Merrick suggests it's just a lack of goals which has cost the team. So one of the better midfielders for the Jets over the course of the recent journey says, I'll see to that. And when everyone's thinking he's going to open his shoulders with the left foot, he cuts onto this favoured right. It's a brilliant finish. Truly and honestly. Andrew Redmayne says, why for, what for? Not even he can stop this one. He's been in great form, the Sydney keeper. But Ugarkovic strips him bare at the near post.
That's his second of the season. Both have come in the past 4 games. The first of Craig Dean's interim spell in charge. And all that, Andy, from a midfielder who was in doubt pre-game with a foot injury. Didn't seem anything wrong with his foot, or at least his right one.
Well,
maybe it was his left. Maybe that's why he didn't want to shoot back with that one.
Yeah. Look, it's a great hit from Ugarkovic, and it's the very empty part of his CV, goals from midfield. He is a high-quality player, but if you can start scoring his share of goals, which doesn't mean there's an expectation he leads the goal-scoring charts, but if he chips in with his half-dozen goals a season as a midfielder, half-dozen plus, then he'll start expecting more from his career, because he's got the kit bag otherwise. It was a beautiful hit.
It's the first time he scored more than one in a campaign, so that's something to build on for Steven Ugarkovic. It's just his 5th in total in the A-League in 104 matches, which sort of underlines your point, but he does have that in his locker. And it's more importantly given the Jets a fair bit of confidence here. Matthew Miller taking control ahead of Ugarkovic. Just overreaching, and Barbarouses nipped in. Just at a point in the game where Sydney were looking as though they're about to assume almost total control. The league leaders rock back on their heels. They found space again here down the left for Joel King to try and exploit. Fondra cuts to the near post. And came heavy off the instep of the Englishman.
Yeah,
Goal kick.
He looked like he quite ran out of a little bit of an idea what to do there. Lafondra. But they've found a lot of space on this near touchline. Thankfully for the Jets, Ugarkovic has got him back square. Great desperation by Wilkinson, but it's not enough. He's a high-quality player, Ugarkovic, but needs goals. Needs goals to completely confirm that league-wide. And that was a brilliant hit.
His other goal this season came in a 6-2 loss a few weeks back in Perth. And that was his first in 2 years, so he's got the taste for it now, clearly. This is Baum-Johan. Crisp 1-2 with Lafondra. Sydney looking to restore some order from their point of view. King. Ninkovic back through Rattray. Sydney probing. Rattray wanted it played into a little pocket of space that he just managed to find for himself, and is irritated that that run wasn't rewarded. Baum-Johan with the spin, and he'll work it out towards Van der Sar, but Bobby Burns in sharply and gets the decision too.
Well, the Northern Ireland under-19 international slides in right in front of the Sydney fans. I reckon they gave him a bit of lip. He would have enjoyed it. They're still giving him some lip.
He'll be used to that, Bobby Burns. I think he played in a Hearts-Hibs derby during his time in Scotland, so that won't bother him. Breaks here for Ninkovic. Sliding in was Fitzgerald, effectively too. Ugarkovic. Miller. It's a good touch around the corner, that by Fitzgerald. Ugarkovic again driving into space, but telegraphed the pass straight at Joel King. Instead it's Lafondra for Sydney. Van der Sar. Good feet by Van der Sar. Still he goes on. It's a rather crude challenge by Dimi Petratos, and there's a suggestion of a card, yeah. Out it pops from Stephen Lucas, a booking for Dimi Petratos, because Van der Sar was on his way, and it was an exhilarating run from the young fullback.
But it's a chase with purpose defensively. He cooked his goose in the end, Petratos. I don't think there can be a complaint about the yellow card. But he put in the chase. And that was absent last week. And again, I don't know about his injury status, how fit he was. We can only go on what we saw, and those chases were not clearly in evidence last week. And he's certainly put more focus into that so far today. This is a distance out. It should be safe enough for Moss, really. It'd be spectacular to beat him from here, but Baum-Johan is capable.
Glenn Moss beaten 4 times, of course, in the drubbing against Melbourne victory last week. All told, he's conceded 25 times this season. That's more than any other goalkeeper in the league. Not necessarily all his fault, of course, but he's got to get that wall right. Alexander Baum-Johan waiting for the whistle. Puts it into the box, and Moss will come and claim. All routine in the end for the New Zealand international. Oh, the throw wasn't great though. And the pressure's back on. Rattray. Ninkovic. Baum-Johan.
That's good defending from Bobby Burns. The immediate danger averted after nearly had his head taken off by that throw from Glenn Moss.
Get your head on that one, Bobby. This is Caceres. Wilkinson. King. Rattray. holding off the attentions of Kantarovski. Keen to work it in field for Ninkovic. Back out for Rattray. It's good football this by Sydney. Now Joel King with a bit of space. Near post was again the target. Lockie Jackson gets it out of harm's way.
Well, Simon, where we saw Bobby Byrne really defending tight, that last one, it's been loose down the near touchline for the Jets. Fitzgerald and Matt Miller need to sort themselves out quickly. This is just uncontested passage for the Sydney players, whether it's Ninkovic, Barbarouses, Lafondra or Joel King. And they've got to tighten that up or they'll be chasing the game again.
Corner work short to Caceres. Clearing ahead of that time by Jackson. I think Lafondra actually had him beaten for distance on that follow-up header back to Wilkinson. Van der Sar misjudging that horribly from Wilkinson. And then there was a foul on the young fullback. Advantage played, and again, now Stephen Lucas decides to blow this time. And the Jets fans are unhappy because they feel that Van der Sar may have gone in a little bit too strongly in the first instance. He does win the ball, but is that a touch reckless for you, Andy, or not?
No. If I'm Jason Hoffman, I'm wondering how a 19-year-old got the better of me in that situation. Van der Sar fully committed. Hoffman just, I guess in defence of Jason, is probably just trying to lift it over the player, anticipating a breakaway. But first things first, and that's secure the ball, which is what Van der Sar did very well.
He's making a good start to life in that right full-back role in the absence of Ryan Grant, boy from Narrabeen. Bam Johans free kick, and McGowan stole away from Marcus. Up in the air it goes from Hoffman, and further clear from Petratos. But the Jets didn't mark up there, left McGowan all alone in the back post. It was nearly fatal.
That's that near side, which is looking a little dodgy, and this from a set play as well. McGowan was lost left, and it's fortunate for the Jets thereafter. Scramble the ball clear.
Just over half an hour played. It's been a lively contest. Turned over by Ugarkovic. And again, Ninkovic too strong. And now Bam Johan. Trying to find a non-existent gap there, really, for Lafondra. Jason Hoffman will emerge down the left. Fitzgerald calling for it on the right. It's all rather wasteful. A bit of miscommunication, and Petratos and Burns then having it out very publicly afterwards. Here is Ryan Grant, the most famous mullet in the A-League. Another game to serve after this, following that red card against Melbourne City.
It's probably the only mullet in the A-League.
Actually, could be. Well, since yours went, yeah, a few years back.
Rat's tail, mate, not a mullet. That mixed the fashions, committed Rat's Taylor.
I was the same, I'd say. Yeah, long time ago.
Well, I had a rat's tail because Murray Barnes had a rat's tail. What was your excuse?
Fears for fears.
Everybody wants to rule the world, eh?
Yeah. Didn't do that either. Here's Van der Sar. Rattray. Ninkovic calling for it, and he might get there. Oh, all it needed was a touch. And Moss was surely beaten.
What about the pass from Rattray? Great run from Ninkovic too. Miller can't secure the ball. Look at that run back from Caceres. And the Jets are prone again now.
Barbarouses shrugs off Miller. Caceres. Might have a dig here, Anthony Caceres. And Ugarkovic just threw his body in the way. It'll be a corner.
That's sloppy from the Jets. They really got out of jail. That ball just beating Ninkovic. Look at this Rattray. He just delivers it beautifully. And he nearly sneaks in, like there's a toenail in it, really. Sloppiness thereafter from the Jets. Lack conviction in the breakthrough or breakaway. Matt Miller not nearly secure enough in possession. You've got to tighten those things up, or it's a matter of course before Sydney punish you.
Well, Sydney have had all the corners. See what they can do with this latest one. Bam Johan. Clearing header from Jackson. Fitzgerald waiting for the run of Hoffman. There can be a quicker in transition here. There could be a chance brewing. It's a good ball by Goalkeeper. Fitzgerald chasing back was Rattray. Doing what all good defensive midfielders simply have to do in those situations. Ninkovic. Caceres. Joel King pushing forward now and is utilised by Caceres. Sydney inching forward and nobody's gone with Ninkovic again, which could be costly. It is. Again, it's as easy as that. Costa Barbarouses nipping in, toes it into the back of the net at the end of the ground where he once scored a grand final winner, and Sydney's lead is restored. And the Jets were just caught asleep once too often.
Well, look at Ninkovic, unpatrolled, no one's talking. This near touchline is proving difficult for Newcastle to block up. And Kandarovski, having got there, then can't stop the pass. No one then follows Barbarouses. And it's like shelling peas for Sydney. You've got to go with runners. You've got to close the ball down. They're too static defensively. They've been sloppy the last couple of minutes, and this has been coming. You roll out the red carpet for Sydney, and don't be surprised if they accept the offer. They're too good.
Half a dozen for the season for Costa. 7 in the last 11 now against the Jets. One of his most favourite opponents. Make that a goal or an assist in 9 of the last 10 now for the All Whites.
So it was just a few minutes ago that Milos Ninkovic nearly got on the end of the retro ball. So he's shown just a couple of minutes ago that he's going to break the line of midfield and get in behind the defenders. I mean, he is, along with Castro, over the last few years, the most dangerous midfielder in the competition. Don't the red lights start flashing? Don't people start screaming to survive the attack because Ninkovic is in town? And he just strolled through, completely unattended.
That's why, of course, Sydney FC were so eager to keep Milos Ninkovic. Meantime, Bam Johan is down hurt. Newcastle can't afford to worry about that. It's Miller on the right. Cross might pop out here for Kantarovski. Lafondra ensured it didn't. Bam Johan back up on his feet now. Seemingly okay. Hence the boos from the home fans. Maybe why Barbarouses didn't give him the ball. McGowan. Van der Sar. Barbarouses. Caceres. Joel King again with Fitzgerald just drawn towards the ball. They have to be mindful of that space that continually opens up down the left-hand side. Easier said than done, of course, against the reigning champions. The worrying thing for the rest of the league, Andy, is that Bratton suspended, Grant suspended, O'Neill injured, maybe about to depart, Bahaja at the Olyroos, Michael Zullo on the bench. I mean, that's 4 or 5 first-team regulars not even starting tonight.
Yeah, they've built formidable depth.
Here's Fitzgerald on the right. Petratos wants it played early. Redmayne holds them up. And and reacts brilliantly to snaffle it away from Petratos, and he's picked up an injury in the process. Excellent goalkeeping from Redmayne. But Sydney were rocking just momentarily.
It was. It's a good ball from Nick Fitzgerald, and Jason Hoffman arrives on time and he makes good contact. Credit the goalkeeper. And it's very easy to say if that's Lafondra, it's a goal. And that's the sort of form Adam Lafondra's in. And he spread nicely, and then he was up quickly to smother the rebound as Dimi Petratos came in. They're going to get chances, Newcastle. This is the way the team has developed over the last few years. They will continue to attack. And if they can maintain their composure, get a little bit of luck, they'll get the goals. So their worry is the lack of intensity at the other end of the field to stay in the game long enough.
Well, 3 saves Andrew Redmayne's made tonight, but that one surely the best. The double stop. The 2 earlier on in the game were rather more routine. Of course, he was beaten by an excellent strike by Steven Ugarkovic, but they're the happiest fans in the stadium in the moment. Let's remind you of the 3 goals that have been scored so far tonight. The first from Adam Lafondra, Andy.
Well, I mean, look at the space for Ninkovic. It was in transition, but that Newcastle couldn't close up the space. It shows the worries that confront them. Papered over the cracks, perhaps. Ugarkovic with a brilliant effort. Credit where it's due. It's super football. And Arroyo's been good too. He's had that one chance himself. He gets the assist here to make it 1-1, and then it's inexplicable, if not unforgivable, for a team in the A-League after Ninkovic has been here for over 3 seasons to allow him this sort of space, and then wonder why you're chasing the game.
Andrew Redmayne is okay, but if he wasn't, then that's the young man who would replace him tonight, Adam Pavlicic. Thomas Hewitt-Bell is injured at the moment, and this young 17-year-old is just fresh off a trial at Roma, no less. The Italian Serie A giants. And he's another John Crawley product, Andy, which augurs well for the future for both Sydney and country, potentially. If he fulfills that promise, of course.
Well, he's developed a line of wonderful goalkeepers, John Crawley, so if he gets the stamp of approval, he's got something going for him. Up to the kid now when he gets his chance.
And intriguingly, of course, Andrew Redmayne is yet to commit or recommit to Sydney FC. Their established number 1. Maybe feeling he turns 31 in a couple of days, that maybe it's time to head overseas.
Well, Tara was digging around that in the pre-game show, and said that we sort of hinted that there might be some sort of announcement soon. So wish him well. He's been fabulous in the A-League, and certainly the most fruitful time of his senior career has coincided with his very strong series of Sydney teams.
Especially after his stint at the Wanderers, he was so disillusioned. He talked about giving the game away. Now he's a full Socceroo. Here's Caceres as we head towards half-time. To a very watchable first half. Here's that space appearing again, potentially for Joel King. And again, he went first time. Those low, hard deliveries have been difficult to deal with, but a lot of those deliveries have come from this left-hand side because of the space made available to the likes of King and Ninkovic, and on occasion Barbarouses. Here's Ryan McGowan. Come off the knee of Caceres. Dimi Petratos. Big doubt against his involvement tonight, Dimi Petratos, because of that ongoing groin injury. With 1 or 2 under an injury cloud at the moment. Wes Houlihan, though, we're told, back in light training, which is really good news. particularly good from Miller. As we tick along towards the final minute of the first half, Bam Johan is emerging through midfield here and threads it through, and Lafondra will get on the end of it. He's trying to return it back from whence it came. And Bam Johan perhaps a little bit slow to react. Wasn't expecting that.
Would have been a tap-in if he continues his run. And the surge from midfield was impressive from Bam Johan. And again, no Jet could foot it with the German.
Things to work on at the break for Craig Deans.
Well, they've got to shift better when the ball switches out to this near touchline. Joel King is looking like Roberto Carlos at the moment. And wouldn't that be a great thing for Australia if he continues in that vein?
Keep going, Joel. Here's Van der Sar. Is he Cafu then on the right?
He's doing very, very well.
3 minutes of stoppage time. We're into the first of those now. Bam Johan. Sarah's driven back. Wilkinson. Ninkovic. Knew he had Matthew Miller right on his hammer. Sarah's will float it forward. Van der Sar will wait for it to come onto him. Burns with the block. Stretching and reaching it, but Lafondra didn't read the intention. Topper Stanley with time. Using options, which Fitzgerald now provides. Garkovic having a stretch. Likewise Petratos. Good reach though. And a good win by Alex Wilkinson. Jets just have to be careful they don't switch off again here. 3-1 and it's an awful long way back. McGowan. Worked out by Caceres for Van der Sar. Lafondra. Lost his footing and the ball. Maybe the final chance of the first half might go the way of the Jets, but they get a free kick. Foul on Kantarovski, and there's a little bit of push and shove inside the centre circle, which we can probably do without. Newcastle angry that Sydney weren't that keen to hand the ball over. Well, there's the initial incident by Barbarouses on Kantarovski. He then had a bit of a reach out himself and kick out at Barbarouses.
No, I don't know. Look, it's hard being a ref, but Kantarovski's turned into trouble there. I don't think that's a foul on Barbarouses, to be honest. And Ben's reached out to pull his shirt. I actually thought if anything was going to happen, it was going to go against the Jets. It's taken a long time to get the game restarted. However, Stephen Lucas has needed to say a few things. Fair enough.
VAR not interested in getting involved. Final action of the first half probably will be Petratos' free kick on Redmayne, and Joel King got in a bit of a muddle there. He sorted out eventually, Sydney. And Lafondra gets the whistle. It should just about see us through to half-time. In fact, it does. And a very watchable first half it's been as well, with a bit of spite towards the end, bit of niggle. Andrew Redmayne had to make a couple of decent saves, but almost got in a tangle there right at the end with his own defender. Prior to that, Adam Lafondra gave Sydney FC the lead in the 14th minute with a sharp finish at the near post. Similar sort of scenario for Costa Barbarouses. Welcome back to McDonald Jones Stadium. The change in coach hasn't brought about a change in fortunes as yet for the Newcastle Jets. Craig Deans finding the going just as tough as his predecessor, Ernie Merrick. The Jets trailing Sydney FC. The league leaders, of course, by 2-1 at the break. It's been a good game of football on a decent pitch, and thankfully a much clearer and largely cooler night than we've had of late. And talking of heat, of course, the A-League and football in general getting involved in fundraising to assist those who are suffering through all the bushfires. Fox Sports, we're doing our bit. All us commentators, 11 of us, are donating $20 per goal. It's scored in every A-League and W League match this weekend. Cranbrook Rural Fire Brigade are our beneficiaries, and collectively we're in it to the tune of $660 at the moment between the 11 of us. $60 each. If you want to give, of course, rural aid, is the beneficiary of the A-League in general. So no changes made by either coach at the break. Sydney looking to go 10 unbeaten and 12 points clear at the top, and they have the advantage. Goals from Lafondra and Barbarouses, Steven Ugarkovic with the reply in between for the Jets. And what sort of message do we think Craig Deans will have given to his charges at half-time, Andy Harper?
Yeah, well, time will tell. But, you know, he would encourage them, as I'm sure Ernie Merrick would do, that we're playing well, reasonably well with the ball, creating some chances. We've got one. See if we can concentrate, a bit more conviction, attack the ball, anticipate maybe. But really the foundation for any sort of comeback has to be to tighten up at the back. And Sydney, if you're Craig Deans, the message needs to be, Sydney leave the field today. They might win the game, but if they do so, it's with a bloodied brow, metaphorically speaking.
Well, they've now conceded 19 goals in the last 6 matches, 5.5 matches to be more precise. Let's see if they can defend this situation a bit better. Johan back through Harry van der Sar. Across to the vastly more experienced Alex Wilkinson, who signed on for another year in the A-League with the reigning champions. Sort of time of year where all those contract negotiations really begin in earnest. Probably a bit more straightforward for Wilco. Barbarouses has got clear of Burns here. Lafondra at the near post. They went towards the far. Miller will prevent the corner, but he's turned the ball over to Joel King. Side of the pitch that gave the Jets an awful lot of problems in that first half. Reset through Alex Wilkinson. Floats it over towards van der Sar. That's the return from Caceres, and back through McGowan. Spun up and away off Jason Hoffman. Topper Stanley first to react. He's now doing a bit of on-field coaching himself, the Jets captain. Just urging a little bit more movement and the creation of a few more options from his teammates further upfield. Jackson. Topper Stanley. Burns. Forced to turn back by Johan. Jackson to make unchecked progress, but the touch is just a tad too heavy off Hoffman. Jason Hoffman, the only survivor of the only Newcastle team to win a grand final back in 2008, still with the club. 2 years ago, of course, they did get to the big dance with Ernie Merrick in charge. Seems an awful long time ago at the moment. This is Kantarovski. That's a clever run by Miller. Outside him is Hoffman. Jets looking promising here, all the way through for Arroyo. 3 or 4 in the box, but he can't get the cross in. Van der Sar makes the block.
That was a really intelligent contribution from Matty Miller. Critical of him so far this evening, not been at his best recently, but that was a really intelligent touch in. Arroyo, who's been good tonight upon return, didn't have an answer, unfortunately, from Newcastle's viewpoint on the far post.
Lafondra barged into by Topless Stanley. Home fans don't like the decision. Not too many complaints from the Jets skipper. Spent a season, of course, with Sydney. A long time ago now, back in 06-07. Probably more prominently remembered for his time across town in the Harbour City with the Wanderers. He's chasing back now as Sydney look to add a 3rd goal to their tally. It's Barbarouses, shapes, finds the position, and it's beaten away by Glenn Moss, who was maybe slightly deceived in flight but readjusted really well, and is now giving his teammates a bit of a bake for allowing them to create that angle in the first place.
Well, the angle's one thing. How Sydney got into the danger zone and forced that save virtually on the back of 2 passes. That's without knocking it long and going direct. It was really soft from the Jets structurally. Then they're backing off. Matt Miller again deciding, I'm better off sitting in the goalkeeper's lap rather than putting the pressure on Barbarouses. I don't get it. And on that point, I think Glenn Moss is quite within his rights to deliver the message the way he did.
Vastly experienced, of course, Glenn Moss. It's his 249th A-League game tonight. Turns 37 on the 19th of this month. Meantime, upfield is Matthew Miller, inviting Bobby Burns forward. Fitzgerald with a little reverse pass for the fullback. Van der Sar's done well again. Hoffman. It's a useful ball to play in Miller, and he's around the fullback Joel King. The cutback just bisected 2 or 3 of his teammates. Maybe just delayed a fraction too long, and now Sydney can spring forward. Down Johan feeding Lafondra, has a little glance over the shoulder. Only Barbarouses within range, and he couldn't pick him out. And that's a good readjustment by both Jackson and by Jason Hoffman to get themselves out of a rather sticky situation there, the Jets.
It's a brilliant run, this, from Matty Miller. He's done some really clever things in attack. And this is Miller at his best to that point. Didn't measure the delivery, unfortunately, and Sydney were exposed up the other end.
Arroyo again is ignored from the throw, which he's frustrated with. Square by Kantarovski. Ugarkovic. Oh, they played it nicely. Arroyo off the crossbar. Only partly away by Wilkinson. Petratos couldn't sort his feet out. They appealed for a penalty, Newcastle. Nothing doing. It's out for Matthew Miller. And he blazes away at the shots. And the chance is gone for the Jets. But Abdul Arroyo, so exciting.
Well, great lead up from Ugarkovic. And the 1-2 beautifully worked by Fitzgerald. And it's spectacular, of course, but he needs to score. A striker in that position. The wall pass was excellent. And he just couldn't control the shot, wasn't balanced enough. And then Dimi Petratos scratching away, trying to eke out an advantage for his team, couldn't do so. But that was the equaliser there. He's been good tonight, Arroyo, in fairness to him, but that's the moment. That's the moment when you state your claim.
Well, we'll offer encouragement to Craig Deans. The sight of both his main striker, Arroyo, and his main playmaker, Dimi Petratos, involved in those sort of situations. Meantime, Bam Johan has dug it out well. Lafondra on the right. Only Ninkovic in the box at the moment. Back they'll come through Bam Johan, Sydney. Barbarouses twisting and turning away from Fitzgerald and trying to play with the outside of the boot to reward the run of Ninkovic. And you fancy there are more goals in this game. We could be well out of pocket tonight, me and you, Andy. And a few others at Fox.
Well, there are worse ways to go.
Absolutely. And I've sold the total short, Andy, because, of course, there were goals aplenty in the W League last night. So we're over $1,500 now.
Great. Well, it's with the players now. The Fox Sports commentary contribution is going to the Cranbrook Rural Fire Brigade, nestled in the mid-north coast of New South Wales. That brigade fought like Trojans, as it did all the community brigades up there in those terrible fires 6-7 weeks ago through Hillville. Boban, you might remember the name, one of the first communities to get obliterated. The Cranbrook mould, along with all the brigades on the mid-north coast, were there doing their best.
Foul by Burns. He said, I took the ball. Topper Stanley argues the toss and goes into the book for his troubles. Stephen Lucas not standing any messing around. Let's have a look and see if Burns was right. Oh, he does get a piece of the ball, but
it's a fair challenge. Defenders
Stephen Lucas decides it's a foul, and Topper Stanley booked for pressing the case. Van der Sar. Caceres eased out by Ugarkovic. Angus Thurgate is ready to come on as the Jets' first change. I wonder if that will be for Arroyo. Well, there's one or two candidates given the injuries that they've been carrying into this game. Let's see which way Craig Deans goes. Yep, it is Arroyo. And you just sense a little bit of disappointment around the ground. Perfectly understandable, given that he's only just working his way back from injury, of course, but he came so close to squaring the ledger, didn't he, the Panamanian, with that powerful effort that cannoned back off the crossbar. The Port Macquarie Pele is his replacement.
Yeah, Dinkham will have a dead-set Canarinho's 11 here before long. Roberto Carlos down the left-hand side for Sydney.
Oh, you started it, Hut. Fitzgerald, well dug out. Miller. Thurgate quickly into the action. Petratos. And it breaks here for Fitzgerald. Wanted a touch. And Miller's effort cannons back off McGowan. Up in the air it goes off Ninkovic. King can't get any great clearing distance. And Newcastle will come again. Good first positive involvement for Angus Thurgate. Swung cross-field by Topper Stanley. Fitzgerald. Teasing cross, but Redmayne had that height advantage, of course, with the outstretched arms.
Had a welcome look. Here's the 1-2. Thurgate, great little first touch. And the Jets, you know, they continue to look dangerous in attack. Sydney can't switch off. Won't need being told that either. They'll know that Newcastle's problem hasn't been an inability to attack. It's been an inability to finish chances, and they've already watched one go off the crossbar to safety. Otherwise, the scores would have been level.
It's a lovely soft touch by Lafondra. Less impressive was the release from Van der Sar. It's a last 10-minute stat that you just saw top left of screen. Does does indicate that the Jets are a long way from losing an interest in this contest. Such a tough run of fixtures they've got. Next they go to Melbourne City, who are second on the ladder, and then Wellington, who could well be third if they get maximum points against the Wanderers tomorrow. They're expecting a big crowd at Westpac for that, or the new Sky Stadium, I should call it. I think it's been renamed now. Part of a triple header to come tomorrow. Brisbane, Melbourne City at Suncorp, and Perth, Adelaide, the late game. Mariners and Victory on the Sunday. Meantime, Thurgate giving Hoffman a chase. Heavy touch from McGowan. Shut down by Petratos. Goal kick is the upshot.
Well, unfortunate for Newcastle that Dimi Petratos' deflection goes out for a corner, but the important bit was the energy to close the player down. This sort of sets a tone. And it's been at the forefront, evidently at the forefront of Dimi's mind tonight. The ball will, at my feet, will take its course. I'll try and affect the game, but I'm going to actually try and establish a foundation of working incredibly hard to win the ball back and pressurise my Sydney opponents, and he's been really good in that discussion tonight. And the Jets have got themselves back, as far as the flow of the game is concerned, into a very competitive position. Their fans can't be confident that they've completely closed the door, the back door, because Sydney, A, too good, and Newcastle, B, on too many occasions have dropped off and been punished. But they're back in the discussion here so far, the Jets.
Here's Thurgate. Getting to the front line, which he loves to do. Miller, much more involved second half going forward. Ugarkovic, referee Stephen Lucas with an inadvertent touch. And back we will come. Of course, the ref is allowed to do that these days. Slight change in the rules.
Yep, good introduction from Angus Thurgate. And the way the game has taken for him is dropping off that front line, playing more in midfield, which is where he's learnt most of his football till now.
The uncontested drop has not come to anything as yet, and instead it's going to be a free kick for Sydney. It's going to be another booking for the Jets, this time for Ben Kantarowski. And here's why. I'm not sure there's an awful lot in that, Marks. You?
No, I think he played for the ref read that well. I thought Kantarowski made himself, with all his experience, looked as innocuous as possible, but that's stopped an attack quite clearly. He knew what he was doing, and the ref pinged him. I don't have a complaint on that one.
Heavy off the boot of Rattray.
Steve Corica's cutting a little bit of a frustrated figure. He knows this one isn't safe. But equally, he knows that his team had to escape, really, on the evidence of the second half against Adelaide last week. Very, very good first half from Sydney. But maybe he, along with his assistant, Robbie Stanton, are seeing a little bit of history repeating. Maybe a jolt required for Sydney.
Here come the Jets again. It's Ugarkovic picking his way through the centre of the Sydney FC defence before McGowan said enough is enough, and he emerges from the deep. It's a barnstorming run by the central defender. Links up with Lafondra before toddling off back towards halfway. Ryan McGowan. He's got Sydney well upfield. It was an important intervention too, because the league leaders were in a bit of trouble before he stuck his oar in there. Ryan McGowan, Baum Johan on the ball. Barbarousis looking for width, or a little dink through for the run of Ninkovic, perhaps didn't quite work out.
It was better from Sydney. And it all came on the back of the robust athleticism of McGowan. And Newcastle again either unwilling or incapable of chasing him adequately. It's a great upfield burst by McGowan, which then resets the story up in Newcastle's half, and that's when the tricky ball players can combine and unite.
Now, problem for the Jets. Glenn Moss has done something seemingly to that left calf, potentially, as he went to take that goal kick, which sliced horribly out of play, and immediately signalled to the bench and said, I've got an issue here. If it is a calf problem, and they call that the old man's injury, don't they? Without being disrespectful to Glenn Moss. I only say it because I've done it myself, and it doesn't hurt, it doesn't tickle, you feel it pop, and it's not pleasant. Oh, yeah. I reckon that's gone.
Well, the Jets bench is waiting for some sort of confirmation. Meantime, Lewis Italiano, who by all reports has been playing out of his skin in the National Youth League.
Yeah, I got those memos as well. I think it was an F3 Derby youth game, wasn't it, where were we having the same conversation with somebody at the Mariners who said he was absolutely playing unbelievably well in that particular fixture?
Was it Monty who reported that to you?
Yeah.
Nick Montgomery?
Nick Montgomery, yeah.
I got my info a bit closer to the source in Newcastle. Point is, everyone's been talking about Lewis Italiano. Looks like he's going to get a chance.
Well, let's go down pitch side. Robbie Slater is watching the game from that vantage point. And Robbie, your thoughts on the way this game has unfolded so far, particularly second half?
The game unfolded so far. I'm here.
What do you think of the way the game's unfolded second half, Robbie?
Yeah, it's been a strange game, hasn't it? I think Newcastle Jets have been a better team. They've had chances to equalise as well. It's like Harp said, I think, in the first half. Sydney take their chances and Newcastle haven't. It's come quite simply down to that. Sydney have got a little bit deeper. Some of the players just come over, and Rob Stanton and Steve Corica were talking to them as Glenn Moss was coming off. And they pulled particularly Caceres and Rattray over to talk about, I would guess, regaining the midfield, because that's what they've lost. Newcastle are winning that battle in the middle of the park, and it's forcing Sydney back, who have looked very deep.
That's a good point. Thanks, Robbie. So Lewis Italiano on for his first A-League action of the season. Last time he was between the posts for the Jets was in that FFA Cup clash against Adelaide, where he saw red for a rather reckless challenge on Nikola Miliusnic. Talking of which, clumsy by Lafondra. There's Glenn Moss, rather unfortunate, being helped to the dressing rooms with that calf injury, or at least that's what we assume it is. And it leaves Craig Deans with just one more change up his sleeve. Yeah, coaching's a bit like that, isn't it? Long launch over the head of Wilkinson, but not so McGowan. Further clear by King. And by McGowan again. Top of Stanley, but Sydney sat deep here, inviting pressure. Garkovic. Oh, Ninkovic losing out. Thurgate gets a piece of it. Fitzgerald. Jets buzzing around the Sydney FC penalty area. Can they fashion an opportunity here? Thurgate. He's added a bit of spark. A little back heel from Ugarkovic. Oh, that's clever. Really clever from Barbarouses to leave that little spell of pressure. Ninkovic will carry it forward. He's looking for the contact there. Eventually Stephen Lucas does blow. He had to think about it, the ref, before deciding that it was a foul by Miller.
Well, I reckon, call me mad, plenty have. I reckon Matty Miller has made the ref's mind up here for him. I mean, it's a great run in recovery. It's probably, if ever, Matt Miller's given itself up. It mightn't have affected things, but if he turns and carries the ball away as a ref, I've done nothing apart from win the ball. If there's any doubt in the ref's mind, it might go his way. Fortunately for Newcastle, he did the first thing which was required, and that is to stop Ninkovic's progress. If they'd had that mentality in the first half, they'd done a better job of defending the 2 goals that Sydney scored.
Here's Lafondra. Jackson across to meet him. Another blow of the whistle, another foul, this time by Lockie Jackson. Frustrations building amongst the home fans. Sydney have been a little bit flat in this second half again. Maybe with a set-piece opportunity to put some pressure on the replacement goalkeeper, Luis Italiano. Switch on is the message from the new man. The ball very carefully placed by Alexander Baum-Johann. Lockie Jackson gets good clearing distance. Good spin by Petratos. Jets looking to launch something upfield. Thurgate on the run. Barbarouses did his job diligently. Bobby Burns wants to take the throw in quickly. Kantarovski back for Burns. Petratos has just stepped into a little pocket and said, "I'm here, play it to me." Ignored for now by the Jets. Ugarkovic, score of that lovely first half equalizer. That's it. Rather leisurely off the boot of Jason Hoffman. Gives us a chance to go back down to Robbie Slater, who's got an update on Glenn Moss for us.
Yeah, well, we've spoken to the physio down here, and 99% short. No surprise here. I think we all picked it. He's torn his calf muscle.
That's not good.
Beautiful little bit of gymnastics there, however. Reach down, grab the leg, lower yourself on one foot. Great core strength from Glenn Moss.
Now Hoffman, onside, no flag. Oh, it did come up eventually. Did look at it first glance. The linesmen, of course, are told, keep your flag down as long as possible if in any doubt. Shouldn't have been, really.
No doubt whatsoever. That's...
Yeah, actually, it was up quick enough, wasn't it, the flag?
Nevertheless, it was with Jason Hoffman. Where's the mind? Welcomed his second child, the most important thing in his life, let's face it. So we're not going to quibble with that. But his last pass, which is a makeable one, he hits over the sideline. Maybe he knew he was offside and so thought, I may as well get some shooting practice. But if that's play on, you've got to look to cut back there.
Do they call that baby brain, Humps?
Nappy brain. I don't know. Maybe we're being a bit harsh. There's still a job to do here, a big job for the City of Newcastle and their football team.
Fitzgerald leading the charge on the right. Thurgate rebounded off Wilkinson. Steered away for now by Retro. Sydney again making heavy weather of this contest. They're the top team in the league. Jets at the bottom. There's a foul on Hoffman, this time by Van der Sar.
It's a good place to win a free kick for Newcastle. And they're looking lively. I mean, credit to the Jets, last on the ladder. Farewelled the league's most experienced coach this year. This week. Sydney showing signs of last start against Adelaide. I'm not sure if it's too much of a stretch to say that. So far they're sailing clear, but that's care of this 2-1 lead. That's a live ladder. Lead mightn't be live for long if they don't stop this Jets resurgence.
Needs a good delivery here from either Petratos or Burns. It's the former, and unfortunately it's not. From the Jets' perspective, Denny Petratos capable of so much better than that. Ninkovic. Seems to attract the contact, doesn't he? Again from Miller. And then latterly from Thurgate. He was the meat in the sandwich there, Milosh. It's a useful looking ball around the corner for Lafondra. He'll tee up potentially Ninkovic. Still there for him, little back heel. And now the flag is up, I think, against Barbarouses. In a situation of immense promise there for Sydney, brought about by that lovely ball down the line for Lafondra.
And just so slippery. This is a cutback. Look at that.
Yeah, Barbarouses' involvement led to that offside flag. Sydney FC have got a fortnight's break before their next engagement in the A-League. It's against another victory, the Big Blue, which is traditionally around Australia Day. It's on the 24th of January this year. So they can put everything into this last 15 minutes in a bid to establish that 12-point lead at the top. It's not exactly been one-way traffic second half, despite the ladder positions. Here's Bobby Burns, decent looking cross, Fitzgerald, and then Dimi Petratos. The flag was up anyway. Petratos couldn't convert. And Sydney survive.
Interesting to see which of the Jets players is Steeds Dimi, who's drifted offside, so he couldn't control their header anyway, but Burns does well. Good little bit of perseverance, dangerous ball, excellent leap from Fitzgerald. Petratos are just straight offside.
Started his career, of course, in the A-League with Sydney FC. Long time ago now. Has a good record of scoring against them, by and large, as well. 8 in 19. Prior to tonight. Still very much in the balance. I think the change of bringing Angus Thurgate off the bench has paid dividends as well. Jason Hoffman at points, Thurgate playing in the pocket. Dimi Petratos having a scramble. Burns over the head of King.
Your assessment's a very accurate one, Simon, and the value for Thurgate, and in the absence of Arroyo, has been playing centre forward, but Craig Deans has subbed him on and he's playing off that front line, linking with midfield and getting forward from midfield. It's incredibly dangerous in that register.
It's too high for Hoffman. Do you think that's his best position?
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind.
Another change off the bench for the Jets presently. Third and final one. We'll see Kane Shepherd thrown into the fray. Meantime, the cross is a weak one from Miller. And Ninkovic will clear. Lafondra can't keep it alive. And has just pulled up a little bit lame there, I think. Adam Lafondra, maybe just a touch of cramp or tweaking the calf. See how he goes. Meantime, Jugarkovic, Petratos, Miller can't get past King, at least at first attempt. Thurgate off the head of Rattray, and then laterally bound Johan, and Caceres should be able to carry it forward, but he's on his own. And he's drawn the foul, and that's going to be a booking for Stephen Jugarkovic. That's 4 yellow cards now that the Jets have picked up tonight.
Well, this angle shows the foul by Jugarkovic clearly. What it doesn't show is the part of Anthony Caceres' game which is starting to take flight in recent weeks. It's always been there. But that little burst through the centre of the field, it's game-changing quality.
So there's that change for the Jets. An attacking one by Craig Deans. Midfielder Ben Kantarowski off. And striker Kane Shepherd on. And they go 4-4-2 now, the Jets. Well, that's how they started, of course, at least on Craig Dean's team list. Might have had one or two variations on that throughout the night. By and large, they've made a pretty good fist of tonight. Might still be something in it for the home side. Cushion header by Wilkinson. Cut forward by King, not far enough though, but it bounces heavy off the chest of Nick Fitzgerald. And Sydney are going to make their first change.
So Anthony Caceres, look at the way this ball breaks. He picks it up just outside the edge of his penalty area, and then he sets fair. And the point about Anthony Caceres, which is really starting to develop now, is everyone looks at him as a beautiful touch player, past this, that and the other. Mate, the kid can run. He's not a kid. The young man can run. And when he's running with the ball, he's a very dangerous prospect.
Milos Ninkovic getting the cheers from the away fans and the jeers from the home, who want him to get off pretty quick smart. But Sydney fans delighted to have one of their talisman back, and made his contribution tonight, the assist for the second and so far winning goal for Costa Barbarouses. Michael Zullo is now with us. Here's Shepherd. Jets fans wanting a foul on Fitzgerald, they're going to get it further back.
Well, 10 very exciting minutes coming up, I think. The Jets have been very good in this second half. You don't qualify that at all. They have been very good. They've hit the crossbar through Arroyo. They've had 2 or 3 other good chances. They've had great possession around the Sydney penalty area, and they're really pushing the champions.
Petratos with the free kick. Toto Stanley was underneath it. So too, though, was McGowan for Sydney. There's a lot of unheralded work, Ryan McGowan, from those sort of situations. Ian Wilkinson fielded off 38 crosses last week against Adelaide United as they defended that 2-1 advantage, and they're doing something pretty similar here tonight. There's 2 Socceroos, Andy, in the heart of Sydney FC's defence. Really good base.
It's a great partnership. Excellent player. Great partnership between he and Wilkinson. Of course, they've played across the back line for Australia, as you say. They've built a formidable partnership, the two of them.
Michael Zullo's come off the bench incidentally yet again, as he was last week, in rather unfamiliar right full-back role. Challenging for the ball with Kane Shepherd. It's a foul by the Jets substitute, and Bam Johan suggesting that perhaps that should be a card as well.
We're just too slow there, Kane Shepherd. Too slow to decide what he was going to do, too slow to execute whatever decision he'd come up with.
Michael Zullo. Wilkinson. Van der Sar has now been shifted into a midfield position. Post Zullo arrival. He's overhit that one for Joel King. King trying to retrieve the situation. Thurgate to turn it back through Lachlan Jackson. Topple Stanley. Shepherd got his wires crossed with Hoffman. Showing signs of rustiness perhaps, Kane Shepherd, that long injury layoff. He's played only 38 minutes in 2 substitute appearances this season after that long foot injury kept him out. Not that he's got a long foot, but it was a long injury to the foot.
Oh, long foot, eh?
He might have a long foot.
He used to have a career as a pirate or something, did he? Captain Longfoot.
Down the line by Zullo. Out of Caceres, and that'll give Sydney the chance to make another change, and a little back heel away by Caceres has attracted the ire of the home supporters. It's the end of the section for Adam Lafondra, who just pulled up lame here chasing this ball. It's one of there's a little tweak of the calf there, or a hamstring or something. So he takes early leave, and Geordie Swibble is with us for his second A-League appearance, both of them having come off the bench. His debut last week against the Reds, which ended in a 2-1 success for Sydney, and so far it's the same story here. That's going to be a Jets corner, which Zullo really vociferously disagrees with. I reckon there'll be more complaints to come if the Jets were to pinch an equaliser here. Jimmy Petratos to deliver. Under 5 minutes remaining. Good distance on the clearing header from King. Back through Bobby Burns. To a decent area for Ugarkovic. Plenty forward still for the Jets. Fitzgerald. Sydney slow to close down. It ricochets up in the air off Van der Sar. And Redmayne, did he stray outside his area? I tell you what, Stephen Lucas is in a really good position. You've got to credit the ref here, because he was bang in line to see whether it was in or out. And he said it was okay. Unless we can find a camera angle that disagrees, of course. Here come the Jets again. Poke through, intervention by Wilkinson. Lash towards goal, appeal for hands. Nothing doing, it was Kane Shepherd's effort that was blocked. And Sydney FC just having to really dig in again here, as they did against Adelaide last week. It's good pressure from the Jets. Thurgate. Hoffman in a good position. Too many bodies to get through. It's very congested in there. Caceres trying to find open pasture. Back come the Jets. Topple Stanley. Volleyed away by McGowan. Angus Thurgate on halfway. And Sydney just can't keep the ball. They can't even get it at the moment.
It's been a very impressive, very spirited second half from Newcastle. Sydney really having to work hard across their back line just to see the Jets away. But you expect, of course, players like Wilkinson and McGowan to be up for that challenge, which they very much have been. Redmayne tiding up behind them, but the Jets have been coming and coming.
Here they come again. Fitzgerald gets around Van der Sar. Petratos. Ugarkovic, top of the box, was calling for it. Too late now. Miller. Everything in slow motion momentarily. Miller gets the cross in now. Headed clear by Caceres. Start again though through Lachlan Jackson. Sands of time starting to run a little short though for Newcastle. That's good though. Ugarkovic got the reverse ball from Miller. The cutback, Miller again. Joel King didn't know too much about that, but it did the job, and Geordie Swibble now must try and carry it forward and maintain possession for a few seconds for Sydney FC, but he can't do so. Pressure back on. Sydney want to introduce Patrick Flotman, which as a defender is perhaps indicative of their mindset going into these last few minutes. What we have, we try and hold. Topple Stanley. Hoffman. In fact, it was Shepherd, my mistake, but it's way over the top from the substitute. And here's that Sydney change.
Fitzgerald in on goal. Off the knee of the defending Sydney player. Ugarkovic asking if the question's gone out. Kane Shepherd from distance. That was the appeal for handball. Stephen Lucas waves play on, and the VAR didn't see any reason to intervene thereafter.
And back with live pictures, and the home fans feel as though this is a bit of time wasting, but maybe just a finger dislocation here. Yep. Oh, oh dear. Oh, oh, oh. You can see Ryan McGowan's face as well. Goodness me. Let's have another look at this handball shout. Is he making himself unnaturally big? I mean, how many times have we had those questions this season? Meantime, dislocated finger for Michael Zullo, which Elias Bukarim has resolved with a crack that appeared to be audible. So much so it made Ryan McGowan wince.
He's now back in the natural position. No VAR required. Just the handiwork of the Sydney physio.
And Patrick Flotman about to be introduced for just his second A-League game in place of Alexander Baum-Johan. 22-year-old defender replacing the 32-year-old German. His only previous game was a late substitute appearance against Melbourne City earlier on in the season. Baum-Johan's done another good job for Sydney tonight. There is Flotman, who did play senior football in Thailand last year for Air Force United in the second tier in that competition in Southeast Asia. And that little break for the finger dislocation and the substitution is irritating the home fans. Sydney happy to try and slow things down, because they've been under the pump, make no mistake. 5 additional minutes to be added. Matthew Miller had the banana boots on there and kicked the ball with the wrong one. Just cannot hold the ball though, the league leaders. Petratos works it out towards Fitzgerald, who's been good tonight on that right-hand side. Teasing cross. Shepherd couldn't reach it. Zullo will clear. Only as far as Miller. Fitzgerald again. Hoffman. Loops up in the air. That's what Flotman's been brought on to do. Clear the lines at all costs. Here's Ugarkovic. Got a clean strike. And the Jets appealing for a corner. There's going to be nothing doing there. And Stephen Lucas just ensuring that there's no delay or overly long delay to the goal kick by Redmayne.
This is disappointing for Ugarkovic. Been great tonight, scored that excellent goal. Appeals for the corner, but really with that touch, the state of the game, as well as Newcastle have played, your senior statesman, or one of, needs to consolidate that effort, force a save. Just a breakdown in technique, probably getting tired, understandably, by this stage of the game, but still, it's the job. He was brilliant with that first goal in the first half. Jets have hit the crossbar in this second half, had 2 or 3 other good pressure situations against the Sydney defence, and that was when it opened up. And Ugarkovic shot wide.
Sydney edging ever closer to victory. It's in though by Burns, and there are appeals for a penalty again, but flag is up for offside against Newcastle. Jason Hoffman, the man who's the guilty party.
Clearly offside. Foul, if there was one afterwards, is immaterial. Bobby Burns has been useful tonight for Newcastle.
Sydney closing in on what would be their 13th win in this particular stadium, which away from home would represent their best ever. They've also won 12 times at HBF Park over in Perth. They've got a bit more to do before that's confirmed. But time running really short now for the Jets. Burns slings one in, it's useful again. The Northern Irishman, now he's got to chase back, and it's a long way back too. It's Geordie Swibble. Topo Stanley with him, but Swibble's around him. Has he got the pace to keep the ball alive? Not quite.
Strong from Topo Stanley again. He's been a great leader tonight. Most weeks he is. He's really tried to lead by example. He hasn't put a foot wrong himself.
Well, if it does end in defeat, there are at least lots of encouraging parts of the Jets game for Craig Dean. Slung in again by Burns, not quite done yet. Out it pops here for Angus Thurgate. And the rebound should just about see Sydney through to the full-time whistle. And there it goes. Well, Craig Deans' team worked oh so hard, but couldn't find their reward in the second half. Sydney FC is 12 points clear in the Premiership race as the Jets' rather miserable week comes to what is perhaps a rather predictable conclusion. But they certainly played with